fucking start again. We have got issue 2 of Unalive Themselves Squad. That is what a monetized YouTuber would have to call this. Well, I call it Suicide Squad because I will not and have no intention of ever monetizing my drivel. I thought my objective with this video would be to explain all the ways that I hate the inclusion of Superboy. But I went on quite a roller coaster with this one. I dislike the cover. You might start to notice that perspective is a big sticking point for me with a lot of artwork. If an artist tries to do a perspective shot and it's just off even by a little, then that is the art ruined for me. With this one we have 3 separate elements, 3 layers. We have the 2 characters up front, we have Superboy and Pacemaker, and then we have the background. And no matter how you look at it, only 2 of those layers ever seem to operate with a shared vanishing point. So here is Pacemaker, John Cena, Ricky Stenicki himself. There's some photos here showing his past. I don't really know if they are meant to be showing anything from a specific comic, but the second one of him with some of the other charlatan characters might be in reference to LAW, Living Assault Weapons. Bad series from the early 2000s. The third one, it's a giant reach. Pun there. Excellent pun there. The third one might be him battling the aliens, the Reach, from the Jamie Reese Blue Beetle series. The aliens are called the Reach. That the photo doesn't have that version of Blue Beetle there though. It probably isn't meant to represent that at all. The plot is that Pacemaker and the squad broke into Arkham to spring an inmate for the team, Soren from the Guardians of Ga'Hoole. The rest of the team have already died, and it's just Pacemaker and Soren versus all the guards at Arkham. There's also Joker gas for some reason. There is Joker gas. That is one of the main active threats here. Joker gas in Arkham. And it's said in this one to not be Arkham. But it still doesn't answer who or why there is Joker gas filling up Arkham. Maybe it is Medea. Maybe she has secretly orchestrated the spreading of Joker gas to cover her tracks. I don't know. If it's not her, I fear we will never know why Arkham was randomly and coincidentally filled up with Joker gas during this extraction mission. Pacemaker is calling in for backup, and as we saw last issue, Medea has a big player on the board that could be used as that backup. Superboy. I think the action is alright. The comedy less so. One of the running bits is Soren only says the word "oh," and it sounds like something that an owl would say. Maybe I am full of myself, but I thought the Reach pun was better. Then reinforcements arrive. Superboy, and they're not ready for primetime players. I only knew one of these other characters, but based on last issue, and my doubts about Film Freak being proven wrong, I am willing to believe the three I don't know are from Ad Comics. Clockwise, starting at Superboy, we have Superboy, obviously. And after him, we have a fat woman. After her, we have a guy called Exit. He creates portholes. That is his power. Later in the issue, he mentions fighting Batman, so that is something to go on. Now, we will skip the next one, Necra, temporarily, to get to the last one, the guy top left. He is called Mind Warp, and he can control people. He looks very 90s, so I suspect he is from a 90s series. Then to backtrack, Necra, she is the one that I knew. She comes from Batman, pre-Christmas on Infinite Earths Batman. Same period as Film Freak, actually. I read an issue with her once, and she seemed like a creator's pet. Batman was in love with her. Robert was her son. The world around Batman was breaking to validate and insist on how great Necra supposedly was. What took me by surprise was I was properly expecting to hate Superboy. I was anticipating that he would be written as angsty and emo, that he would be like in that miserable Young Justice League cartoon. And it would all be to the end of trying to say that he is no different from these villains. But he's written all right in this. He is trying to save people. He is completely at odds with the rest of the squad, as he should be. He is against killing anyone. He is trying to save the guards from the gas when the rest of the team are only trying to save themselves. I'll do a mini Superboy history here. I'll do a much more thorough one in a Superman or Superboy comic one day, but I'll just cover the basics here. This version of Superboy was created in the 90s. Adventures of Superman 500 was his first appearance. He was meant to be a clone of Superman, created by Project Pegasus, but the Newsboy Legion woke him up too soon. He took over as the main star of the Adventures of Superman series when Superman was dead. And a lot of people roll their eyes or whatever when they see a kid with a leather jacket and shades. But it was the 90s. You were going to have a hero character with a leather jacket and shades in the 90s regardless. Would you not prefer it to be a really well written and good character like Superboy? He eventually spun off into his own series, a solo series written by Callum Cazzazo with art by Wallace Gromit. They were his creators too. Forgot to say that earlier on. He was one of my favourite DC characters. His series and the Superman stories with him are consistently good. He also was a main character in the Young Justice League comic, alongside Robert, the John Blake version, and the Flask, the Bart Simpson's version. And in that series, he eventually began a relationship with Wonderful Girl, the Britney Spears version. His solo series ran for 100 issues. That is worth noting. It wasn't a character that had a 2-year shelf life. It wasn't a character who didn't catch on. Superboy was firmly established and worked, and while sales declined on his solo series, he was not by any measure a character that needed fixing or reworking. You know where this is going. Anyway, since a situation is developing at Arkham, Batman has now arrived. A pretty meaningless guest appearance. He doesn't do out. But I respect that they did think it was necessary to show that if something happens at Arkham, Batman would get there like a first responder. Superboy goes against orders and is set on trying to save the lives of the guards. And then there is this very brief and understated bit with Exit getting some character development. We see that he agrees with Superboy, and he then takes off his gas mask to give it to a guard. I wish this got a little bit more space. Other than Exit saying, "We can help these people," the idea of him risking his own life to do so is only told with the art. Now you might be wondering where Superboy's leather jacket and shades went, where any style or design went. In 2003, John Jeffries had him join Tiny Titans and switch to what is the world's most low-effort superhero cosplay ever. It is a t-shirt and jeans. He went from looking like he was making a conscious effort to look like he had personality to looking like he has none. Everything John Jeffries did with Superboy is awful. He took an already great character, and like every character John Jeffries blesses with his corrosive touch, made him not just worse, but limited them forever after. It turns out he's not just a clone of Superman, he is now a clone of Superman mixed with Lenny Luthor. This never came up in his 100-issue run where he interacted and worked with his creators. Never once did it come up, ever. In typical John Jeffries fashion, he heard Superman clone and made Superboy into that. Now, Superboy's arch enemies are Lenny Luthor and Brainiac. Now, he lives in Sunnydale with the Marthas and goes to high school with relatives of all of Superman's ad supporting cast. And then he dies because he is a teenager and John Jeffries wanks off to killing teenagers. I see Superboy on the Suicide Squad as a direct result of how John Jeffries stripped him of any individuality or unique character to make him into only being a clone of Superman. There's nowhere to take John Jeffries' version of Superboy. He'll just be fighting Lenny Luthor and his own Lenny Luthor DNA forever. Anyway, both Exit and Mind Warp die to the Joker gas. Very lame that, so far, 4 members of the team have all died the exact same way. I did, however, forget to say, Exit and Mind Warp. My guess is at least one of them comes from that 1993 Blood Ties crossover. The one I ate, the crossover with the Xenomorphs making about 25 shit new characters in each annual. They have that sort of look. The squad leaves and Batman does nout. Returning to base and to Medea, she gives Soren his Guardians of Ga'Hoole mask, which makes him a bit more talkative, I suppose. We have some stuff here with Superboy. Medea is keeping him on a leash with crypto poisoning. She has got Bitcoin running through his veins that she can activate if he disobeys orders. And then we have stuff about that with him and Pacemaker. We have a lot of that, actually. As I said, Superboy is written in character, which made me rescind some of my hatred of him being on this team, but that still doesn't mean I have to like it. And what the fuck is going on with his face here when he gets punched? In his original series, there was a story arc with Suicide Squad. Superboy sort of joined the team, but that was completely different. It was a team-up. It was the writer who had worked on the original Suicide Squad series as an inker. He was doing a small reunion of the team in Superboy's book, and Superboy, he was never being equated to assassins or murderers or villains. Even if you write Superboy in character, simply the notion of him being on this team carries with it too many connotations. Let's be honest, most people didn't read the series, that is why it was cancelled. It doesn't matter how Superboy was written inside. To an onlooker, they will see covers of Superboy on the team. They will see adverts with Superboy on the team. They are left to think how Superboy is now on what has historically always been a team of villains, or mostly identified that way. There have been other heroes on the team, like Foxfire or Red Arrow was in an issue, but it is the villains that dominate the conversation on what Suicide Squad is. People will just think Superboy is a villain now, or that he is doing villain stuff because he is on a villain team. So it just makes more creative cul-de-sacs for the character going forward. Next issue, another one I have the first 5. Next issue we'll see the team try to recruit another member, a speedster, and we have the non-binary Flask. The they-them Flask. It is a guest appearance from another DC title at the time, the one that the they-them Flask was featuring in, Tiny Titans Academy. Wonder where they got that idea. Tiny Titans Academy also had that garbage artist from Obsolete Superman. I am more upset about that than a Flask with pronouns in their bio. I wound up liking it a bit more than I thought I would, but I still don't think it's worth recommending. It's got that standard modern comic thing of feeling too short. Issue 1 and 2. I often say this. They ideally should have been one double-length issue, maybe. Issue 1 wasn't enough to catch your attention. Issue 2 gives the reader a better handle on certain things, but what I think it did above all else is that it made me feel less hesitant about reading issue 3. That's still not enough to recommend it. I will give the issue 7 thumbs up at least.